So it was 10 years ago, nearly. And I basically started off with an ulcer on the left side of my mouth, top in the gum. But I also had what I thought was an impacted wisdom tooth, which was causing a lot of pain when I was trying to bite on anything. It just felt really uncomfortable. I couldn't really eat on the left side of my mouth. So just sort of thought I'd make an appointment to go and see the dentist and see whether the tooth needed taking out. Wasn't really overly concerned about the ulcer. Get ulcers, had a few over the years. And so that was it really, just, obviously having this really uncomfortable toothache. So that was early November in 2013. And I was turned 40 in December, so I was sort of hoping to obviously get it sorted. Didn't think that would be an issue by the time my birthday came round. And I went to my local dentist, explained what the situation was, that I'd had this issue on and off with a wisdom tooth that was coming through at a funny angle. So he had a look and basically said that he'd treat it. He thought I needed filling, so I think I had a filling, and then nothing else really happened. I went away and the pain wasn't getting any better, so I made another appointment, went back. He had another look at it and said that, worst case, they could take the tooth out, but he didn't think, that was necessary. And I was finding it hard to sort of explain where the pain was. I couldn't identify the exact tooth. By the time I got to my birthday and Christmas in December, I saw another dentist in the practice who decided it wasn't anything to do with the tooth issue, it was actually sinusitis. Sent me to the GP, went to the GP, and this was now early January, so I'd had to sort of struggle all through Christmas with quite intense pain. The dentist had a look, the doctor, had a look at me, and I sort of told him where this weird lump was that wasn't going, that I thought was an ulcer or an abscess. And he said straight away, no, this is not sinusitis, this is a dental problem. So he rang the dentist whilst I was in the practice and said, this lady's got an issue, it's definitely dental, you need to get this sorted. It's not sinusitis. I'll send her back round and, you can see her today. So went back round and they agreed to take the tooth out. So this was now January. Had the tooth taken out and it just wouldn't heal. I think right up until Easter, I was having what seemed like bone fragments were coming out where the wound was. It wouldn't stop bleeding. Whatever this I thought was an ulcer just seemed to be getting bigger and spreading. And it was sort of like soft to the touch. So by the time I got to April and things still hadn't improved, the dentist basically agreed to refer me to a consultant at the hospital. They did further x-rays and said that they were concerned because there was a root of one of my teeth just didn't exist. And they wanted to get to the bottom of what that was. Was it an infection? And I was still having issues with the wisdom tooth. So they agreed they'd take the wisdom tooth out and do biopsies and then see where we went from there. I went in, I think, in the June to basically have the biopsies done, have the wisdom tooth removed. And it was the weekend of August bank holiday. So on the Thursday, I went back to the clinic to get the results, thinking it was just going to be a bad infection. And that was when they said to me that they'd found malignant cells and they were going to have to then do further work, obviously, to see if they could remove the tumour. So that would have been, I think, about the 24th of August or something. So from initially starting in the November, it wasn't till the August I actually got a diagnosis. I think it was just a total shock because, weirdly, in the November when I'd first gone to the dentist, I wasn't really aware that mouth cancer even existed. So it was the last thing I was expecting to hear. The fact that then, obviously I'd had it for a good sort of 10 months. I just felt panic because I thought, well, is it something that could have been stopped earlier? Has it spread? Is this something that's now going to be fatal? I was only 40. I think the sense of panic and just trying to process what they told me. Because I didn't think it was going to be anything untoward. I'd gone to the hospital, taken my son with me, who was on school holidays. My husband was at work. And it was just trying to remember as much as I could and think, what do I need to be asking? And you just don't know what you don't know. So it was just basically trusting what they were telling me, that, it was the beginning of a journey. It was almost like one of my friends said, it's like getting on a roundabout and you're on it until it stops, basically. And I think that's how I felt, that I was just on the beginning of this journey. And it was just a case of, I've just got to go with it now. When I went in for my final surgery to take the tumour out, they did say that one of the risks was trismus, which again I'd never heard of. But it was one of a few things that they said could happen. It can be permanent, sometimes it isn't. Unfortunately, I did get trismus. I got a very severe case. It basically means when they've taken the tumour, because of where the cancer had spread, it was sort of down into my jaw and up towards my ear, they had to take away more than they thought they would initially. I then had to have, 35 sessions of radiotherapy, which was all focused on this side. And that basically tightened up all the muscles to a point that it's basically like lockjaw. So the opening of my mouth is now limited to the point that basically how I'm talking now is the most I can open my mouth. It means that I get very bad stiffness and cramps in my jaw. Eating and drinking is really difficult. I'm limited as to what I can eat. I have to drink with a straw. It does affect my talking at times. It can sort of make my speech sound a bit slurred, and trying to sometimes get words out. It's not always very clear, and people will sort of say, "Oh, can you repeat that?" It's something I've learned to live with, but I think whether it would have been as severe if it had been caught earlier, I don't know. I'll never know. But it's not something that can be cured once you've got it, because it's down to the muscles and the damage that's been done to the jawbone. It is something that is permanent, unfortunately. The radiotherapy has destroyed the saliva cells on the left more than the right, because that's where, again, it was all focused with the radiotherapy. So I go from either having a really, really dry mouth or to the point that I sort of can dribble and it's uncontrollable. I woke up in the morning and my mouth it's literally like there is just no water in my mouth at all. It's completely dry. My lips stick to my teeth. During the day, my mouth and my lips get very, very dry. And it's sort of having to then drink more. But having had all the cancer and the treatment, it actually limits how much I can drink as well, because I have to drink through a straw. I can't drink as much or as quickly. I also get like a sort of like a mucus build up in my mouth, which can be quite uncomfortable. My taste buds were destroyed, and although they have come back to a degree, they're not back to how they were. So things taste different, so it affects sort of how I eat and drink, what I can eat and drink. When I do eat, I have to use like a coke fork because I can't get normal cutlery in my mouth. I have to use my hands a lot to sort of break food into little pieces. It's like almost like being a toddler again, and having to sort of eat like really small amounts. So going out for a meal, going out to do those nice sort of things that I used to do when I was, pre-cancer, is really difficult. I have to think about what I'm going to eat if I go to a restaurant. And it's not always the same things. It's not like I can never eat something. It can vary day to day depending on how the symptoms are. So you can be doing really well in some areas and then something else isn't so great. I also have tinnitus, which again is down to the radiotherapy. So, and like I say, you have good days and bad days, but there's always something. You're never just free of like, I feel normal again, because there is no normal now. I think people are becoming more aware of it. There seems to be more access to information online and things, which is really good. I've noticed in sort of dental surgeries as well that they are sort of making people more aware, and the fact that obviously during November you've got Mouth Cancer Action Month, that's really good as well, that it does actually make people aware that it is out there. And I think obviously the more people are aware, hopefully the earlier it can be caught and treated, and then symptoms afterwards aren't quite as maybe intense as, if it's left longer. I think for my son, he was 11 when I got my diagnosis, and he, I think it hit him quite hard, and it was sort of difficult letting him know that, he could ask me questions and things. I think he didn't feel comfortable because he didn't know what the answers were going to be. He's obviously, learned to live with it, and, he's incredibly on the ball about things. He's really thoughtful and knows the sort of things that impact me, and, it's really helpful. Likewise with my husband, I have to use straws to drink. So, he's always on the internet trying to find things that make my life easier. I think intimacy is one of the big things with regards to our relationship, and we've been together sort of 31 years nearly now, 32 years. And it's things like kissing, which you don't think about before, you just take it for granted. But just little things like that, it impacts the fact, it's like how I can kiss him. And I wouldn't say we're not any closer, but I think it bothers me more than him. But it's just something, again, I'm aware of that you sort of wish you knew before all this happened. Again, I don't know what I could have done to change it, but it really does sort of make you appreciate things, and it makes you miss things. And I get things like, if I go to a restaurant, I always get like mouth envy. Like I watch other people doing things like taking a sip of a glass of wine or just sort of eating normally, and I think, I wish I could do that. And you do get used to it, but it's still always there. Every day there's the reminder that you had the cancer and you're living with it. And I sort of want to say to people, just appreciate it, make the most of it, because you don't realise how much you rely on your mouth until you can't use it normally anymore. And it's been the strangest thing to try and sort of come to terms with. And I think to begin with, it was really hard. And, I had a lot of issues. Whereas now, it has just become, as much as it can, it's become the norm. And there's things that I cannot and will never eat again. Christmas time's a good example. I used to love peanuts. It's just, just not going to happen because I can't chew them. I had 8 teeth removed. And I think it's those little things that it's sort of like a little bit of a wobble sometimes, but on the whole, it's, it comes into your mind and then you think, just move on because it's not worth worrying about. There's other things I can do instead. It's an impact. And I think I've found it easier to sort of laugh about it. I tried to sort of talk to other people that maybe didn't have mouth cancer but had been through cancer or had cancer. And I did meet other people that had, experiences. And talking to someone else that might be at a different part of the journey was really helpful because, I can say to somebody, oh, yeah, I had that and it's really horrible, but you will get through it. Or, they're worrying because that's still to come. And you can say, well, actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I had nights, I think, for about 10 days where I lay in bed at night, awake, thinking, am I going to see my son grow up? Having questions that I wanted to know the answers to, but I didn't want to ask. And when I actually had the conversation and, they put my fears to rest, it was just something I had to deal with and I could get on and focus on the treatment. And I think Macmillan nurses are fantastic. They're available. That's what they're there for. Use them. Ask them, and even if you think it's the silliest question, it won't be. I found that everything they said to me about timelines was almost to the letter. It happened exactly when they said it was going to happen, and then that helped me because at least then it knew I was on a journey and there was a start, a middle and an end, and I could just focus on getting to the end.